Hello, friends. Welcome to LeggLife Podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
53.
This is, in some ways, like a 10 months later part 2.
Yeah.
We are doing our second conspiracy theories
Yep.
podcast.
Yep.
Episode 17 was the first one we did where we talked about, just things like aliens and Bigfoots and moon landings.
And JFK.
Heck yes, we did. Mm-hmm. And ever since that episode, I remember as soon as we ended that episode, we were like, you know what? We're going to do more of these.
Yeah.
And honestly, I did not expect it to take this long.
No, in fact, we actually had one planned. And we were going to do it on Halloween.
Yeah, we were.
Because it was on a Saturday.
Yep.
And is that the one that we just completely forgot?
Yeah, that's the one we completely forgot. And it's such a bummer because we were so excited about that one.
We had a list and everything. We were so excited. And then I think that we woke up Saturday afternoon we were like,
oh, yeah, a
dang
podcast.
It. Whoops.
So we had intentions to do this sooner.
Sure.
But the timing was not right. And I believe that this timing is God ordained, Sherry.
Is it?
Okay, well, maybe not. But here's why. The reason that this bubbled up to the surface for me was because of a video that got put out.
Yes, we had this on our calendar because, y'all, we are planners now.
We are planners now.
We had this on our calendar for March 6th.
And then something happened in the last week.
Yep.
That forced us to move it up.
Yes, so I got a phone call at work, and he was like, okay, so I'm thinking we need to move the Conspiracy Theory podcast up to this Saturday. And I was like, okay, why?
Well, okay, listen, let me explain myself.
Yes.
Because it sounds foolish.
Well, it kind of is.
A little bit. So in the last podcast, one of the things we covered was like celebrity deaths. And we talked about Elvis, we talked about Tupac. And I mentioned in that episode that, I'm not a real big believer that like those guys just got sick of fame and they moved to Barbados.
Right.
Like, I just don't buy that.
They went into hiding.
Yeah, nope, don't buy it.
Right.
And so I'm not a celebrity death like believer. I think they actually died. But then so
what happened, Adam?
The promotional video for the Super Bowl halftime show got released. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching, I'm so excited because the Super Bowl halftime show, the Super Bowl's in Los Angeles this year. Mm-hmm. And the halftime show is like, the video starts with Eminem and it's playing like Rap God, one of his songs. And then it's got like Snoop Dogg and it's playing some Snoop songs. It's got like Kendrick Lamar. It's got Mary J. Blige. It's got Dr. Dre. And as they're showing all of the artists that are going to be performing at the Super Bowl, they're playing their songs.
Right.
And then the video gets close to the end and all of a sudden you hear that intro to California Love by Tupac come on. And I remember watching it the first time and I got goosebumps. And this is what I said to Sherry on the phone. I was like, oh my God, what if Tupac has really been alive and he comes back at the Super Bowl? Like, don't laugh at me.
I am fully laughing at you. Oh my gosh. Now here's where, this is why this is a bit of a conspiracy theory. And this is what you explained to me. Mm-hmm. Every other song in that promo video was played by artists who are alive and will be there.
And will be performing.
Will be performing.
Every other song.
And then they close this promo video out with Tupac.
With a Tupac song. And so I'm just like,
why would they do that? That's a very intentional song.
So I have a couple thoughts on why they did it. Number one.
Because of California Love.
Well, so I was going to say, one is that the song just fits really well. Because the line they used of California Love is in the city of LA. Mm-hmm. And then it goes to like a pano shot of the stadium it's playing in. So it's like, yes, that's where the Super Bowl is. But here's my thing.
Yeah.
If you used that song just for that line and you got all of our hopes up and there is no like Tupac or Tupac adjacent performance, I'm going to be so pissed off. So here's my guess. Uh-huh. And here's what I hope happens, because I really think like you can't use that song and then not have something Tupac. So I think one of two things will happen. Mm-hmm. I think that all of these artists, especially artists that were so closely tied to him, Dr. Dre, Snoop, that there could be like a medley of his songs performed by other artists. Or what I think actually could happen is
he's alive and he shows up and he takes over the Super Bowl halftime show.
Just so you know, Sherry, because we'll be watching the Super Bowl together.
Yeah.
If that happens, I'm going to lose my shit.
No, okay, I know.
Just so
like,
we're
you're
clear.
You're going to cry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
No, we know.
But what I think actually will happen is I think we could see a hologram performance of Tupac.
Oh.
This is becoming bigger and bigger at music fests and conferences and conventions and all that kind of stuff, that this technology is so advancing that I think there's a chance we could see a hologram Tupac as part of the Super Bowl halftime show.
Will you also cry at that?
I don't know. Probably. Probably. It depends on how good the hologram is. If it really looks like he's on stage singing California Love, then yes, probably.
All right.
So that is why the Conspiracy Theory podcast bubbled up to the surface.
Yeah, so I got this phone call at work, and he was like, okay, we have to move this up. And I was like, oh, dear God. Okay, all right. Because of...
And you thought I was
one
crazy.
line from a Tupac song. It's cool. All right, let's do it.
You can't make that video and use that line and not know what it would do to every single conspiracy theorist out there.
Right.
Like, you have to know.
Yeah, sure.
That was an intentionally put in there line.
And you know what it's going to do? It's going to drive people to watch that show.
100% it is.
Is Tupac alive? Is he going to show up?
Completely. This is not anything to do with the podcast, but I will say I'm very excited about the Super Bowl halftime show, because that's a lot of the music and a lot of the artists. When I was in like high school, that's the kind of stuff I was listening to.
Me too.
No, you just looked me in my eyes and lied. But like Dr. Dre, Snoop, Eminem was a little bit later, Mary J. Blige, like all of those were like artists that I just love.
I listened to Eminem in college.
Okay, so how do you feel about this Super Bowl halftime show?
I'm not super excited because it's not really my jam.
It is very much my jam.
Right.
Especially if Tupac shows up. So now,
sure.
let's talk about... Moving on. The rest of the conspiracy... Wow, that was...
You want to try that again?
No, that word was difficult for me. Take two. We're going to get this. The rest of the conspiracy theories... Okay, going to really enunciate. Thanks, Jerry. That we're going to talk about. The first one on the list... Well, kind of second one. The first one is, will Tupac show up at the Super Bowl?
Obviously.
Clearly, yes. Sherry.
Yeah.
This is one that I feel like my entire life I've always heard about.
Yes.
The Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't know what it is, first of all, get out from under your rock and search.
Where have you been?
Where have you been? Essentially, kind of the over the 30,000 foot view of this is that it is this triangular shaped area out in the ocean where there are they say there's like an abnormally large amount of shipwrecks, of plane crashes, of odd sightings and weather patterns, disappearances, and just supernatural, paranormal-ish activity.
Right. In this specific like square mileage.
So the Bermuda Triangle. Sherry, give me your thoughts.
You really want to hear my thoughts?
Oh no.
Okay. So
you are looking at me right now in a way that I'm very confused because I don't know what's about to happen here.
No, I know. This is why I didn't tell you. We talked about all of these before we really started podcasting.
But you didn't want to talk about this one.
No.
Why?
Because I have a theory.
Is this legit?
Not really. But so it's okay. So I believe that there is a space in the ocean where these weird things happen.
Yep.
I don't know why. I don't actually have like a true theory.
Okay.
I think it's probably some sort of science related something with currents and with whatever. Mm-hmm. I think. But I read a book series.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Called The Dragonians.
Okay.
And they explain the Bermuda Triangle in this way.
Just so you know, the type of book series you read, I expected it to be called like the Bermuda Love Triangle or something like that.
No, it's the Dragonians.
Of course.
So, many hundreds of years ago, dragons.
Oh, I'm already in.
Were on the earth.
100%.
But people wanted to use those dragons for evil purposes, and some of those dragons allowed that to happen.
Isn't this How to Train Your Dragon? Isn't this the plot of those animated movies? Okay.
No. So what happened was all of the dragons went into the Bermuda Triangle, and that's where they live. There's a whole realm, and that's where the dragons live now, so that humanity can continue to just live.
Whoa.
There are still dragons out in the world who are not supposed to be there. Those are the ones who wreak havoc. And so, but like there was this whole series called The Dragonians, and I read it twice all the way through because I loved it. And it is a love story. Let's be clear. Between Elena and Blake. But it's like, to me, like, that is this kind of theory that I love. Like, that totally explains it. Oh.
Dragons.
So these magical creatures needed somewhere to go. And so they went to this one place. And all these things disappear and weird things happen because they don't want anybody to find them.
So the dragons are still wreaking havoc in that one triangular-shaped area. Is that right?
Sort of, yes.
Okay.
Because that's the entrance to their realm. And so they don't want other people just to find them.
Dang.
Yeah. So if a ship happens to sail into there, they sink it. Because they don't want anybody to find them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a better approach to just let them pass safely. And then the ship would be like, no, we didn't see anything. So, I mean, I'm just saying that there's some holes in the plot. But I will say... I
want to believe that there's a realm of dragons.
No, that's what I was just going to say. Is that honestly, I'm fine right now writing off this conspiracy theory as Realm of Dragons. Like,
Done.
Do we believe in the Bermuda Triangle? Yes, dragons.
Done. All right.
Okay. I did not expect dragons to come up talking about the Bermuda Triangle.
No, I know.
When I think of my thoughts about this, it's similar to what you said. I do think that there's probably something that is explained physically or scientifically, whether it is Earth and magnetic poles, tides, you know what I mean? Just like different things.
I also think that there is science out there that has not been discovered yet.
Oh.
And so I think that of all of our scientific theories and all of the scientific technology that we have, I think that there is stuff that has not been discovered yet.
To think that we know everything is one of the highest forms of ignorance.
Right.
Because then you're unwilling to believe that there are still things out there we could learn.
Right. So I think that it could be some kind of scientific something that we just haven't discovered what that is and what that means. And so there's something out there in the ocean that's causing this. We just don't know what yet.
Well, it's dragons. We just said.
Well, I mean, obviously it's dragons.
Yeah,
but,
obviously it's dragons.
Right. If it's not dragons, then I think it's some other kind of...
New science.
New science, right.
So I think that you and I both agree the same thing. It certainly seems like there is something that happens in that part of the ocean, in that part of the world, that is abnormal. What causes it outside of dragons, we're not sure. But we're pretty sure it's dragons.
Obviously it's dragons.
The next one I want to talk about, this one is creepy to me. I'm going to be... This one is creepy.
Yes.
We're going to talk about Skinwalker Ranch.
And the paranormal.
Even the name, Skinwalker Ranch, is creepy.
Even the name.
So I don't know if you guys have heard about this. It's a place in Utah. It's this land, this ranch in Utah that for years and years and years has been the focus of lots of paranormal research, paranormal activity, just all sorts of weird stuff. It has gone from a number of different owners, some very, very wealthy owners, lots of different people, credible, non-credible, have basically given lots of different testimonies about the abnormalities that appear on this specific piece of land in Utah.
Right, and there is a documentary on Netflix?
I think Netflix. And the documentary, this is what bothers me sometimes about conspiracy theory or paranormal documentaries, that sometimes they play up the cheese factor, which can make the subject feel not as serious.
Right.
When actually it's like there's stuff in that documentary that I'm like, yo, that's weird.
Right. And I think that watching it with that kind of viewpoint is what is helpful. That's what we did. Like, I think that there were some nuggets that were like, no, but like, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird. That's not normal. If you ignore the dun 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 kind of music and
the playing up of some of the characters,
of the characters and their personas and whatever, there's some really creepy stuff that's occurring. Yeah,
and so just so you know, Skinwalkers essentially, I'm probably gonna like botch this completely, but it's a Native American legend. Skinwalker was in some ways like a shapeshifter, right? Transforming from like a wolf or a different animal into like human form, like
who could walk in skin.
A skinwalker, right? And so there have been all sorts of things reported here, from sites of actual like skinwalkers transforming, to cattle mutilations, to UFO sightings, to all sorts of paranormal activity, to, I mean, essentially everything but Sasquatch and dragons really have been like reported on this land.
Right.
And there's a ton of documentaries out there about it, not just this one. There's lots of stuff written. And I would say, well, first of all, Sherry, where do you fall as far as like the Skinwalker Ranch? What do you think that is?
I don't know. And I think that it's the kind of thing that you can't watch it and completely write off
Something.
the paranormal.
Yeah.
There is something unearthly happening. And it's weird that it's happening only on that land, on those square miles. So, and they kind of talked about that a little bit, that it's like, it was like a burial ground or a sacred ground for this Native American tribe.
And I think the land was there was like a battle between two peoples, and the land was cursed by one, or something like that.
Right, something like that. And so, I think that's real. I mean, I think that to say that there's not angels and demons on Earth is naive. And I think that this, like, Skinwalker Ranch is very clear evidence of this happening, because there's something that is not earthly happening.
I think to me, in some ways, it's similar to the Bermuda Triangle. It's one of those things that you look at and you don't have an answer for, but you say, this isn't normal, natural. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is outside of what we would consider normal.
Right.
And so I don't know what it is, but I agree with you. I think it's clearly something.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was, it's fascinating to dive into. It's actually one of the conspiracy theories, paranormal type of things. Wow. That I would like to spend more time diving into.
Yes and no. Like, it creeps me out.
You got creeped out by a lot of it.
Yep.
Yeah, you got creeped. So, okay, maybe I'll dive into this.
Like, I fully believe that there are, like, angels and demons on Earth, and that they're battling, and I think that that's biblical, but also, like, it's just naive to think that it's not, and it creeps me out, though. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it. Just
well, that's where
carry on.
That's where things, I think, that anything that is unseen, whether you call that like a spiritual realm, a paranormal realm, an otherworldly realm, like whatever you call it, there's something about what is unseen that, at least to me, is so much scarier.
Yeah.
And I even think about, horror movies, and you're not a horror movie fan.
Nope.
But to me, the scariest movies are when the creator of the movie actually doesn't show it all. It's when they let our imagination and our minds fill in the blank spaces, because our minds always fill it in so much worse than anything they could show.
Like the Blair Witch Project.
Well, not necessarily. I
think probably, like, that's the most, like, horror movie that I've watched.
Oh, really?
And it creeped me the hell out.
You're so cute.
But I think they kind of did that. Like, I feel like
never really knew.
You never really knew. They never really answered. It was just this thing that was happening.
But then...
But you didn't know.
But then it's the last scene. Like, I don't remember if it was the last scene, but it's like when they pick up that camcorder and there's that kid standing in the corner.
Oh, God.
Stop. Just like pants pooped instantly. Like, just like instant pooping. This starts happening. I will say, I really like that movie. That movie was so campy and kitschy.
Right.
But
that is, like, the absolute scariest that I can handle.
You are so adorable. Well, then you know what? Here's what we're going to do, Sherry. We're going to move away from scary into something... Oh, we're not yet.
No, I think that we're going to skip this one. We're going to come back to it, because I think that we need to talk about the unseen and the unexplained and continue on with this one.
Okay, so then the next one we're going to go to is then Nessie.
Nessie.
The Loch Ness Monster.
Yes, so we also have one here in Alaska.
We do. So Lake Iliamna is the biggest lake here in Alaska, and there is an Iliamna Lake Monster that is very similar in description to what a lot of people think of when they talk about the Loch Ness Monster. So, if you're not familiar, Loch Ness is a loch in Scotland, right? And there has, for years and years, been people that have essentially seen this dinosaur type
something floating on the lake.
Yeah, on the lake.
Right. And
so the Loch Ness Monster is believed to be this large sea monster or large lake monster in Loch Ness. Sherry Beth, thoughts?
My thoughts are the same as with Sasquatch. So here's my thing.
You're a complete believer. Evidence has swayed you. Now you're on Team Squatchy.
No.
Dang it.
I am a believer that there is probably very large fish or floating animals or something in these
Floating
large
animals.
lakes. I think that is entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
However, the fact that we have no clear pictures of Nessie, we have no clear pictures of the Lake Iliamna monster. They're always blurry, just like Sasquatch. How is it that we can see moons and planets and craters on planets millions of miles away, but we can't find a fish? Why is that?
They're much more elusive than planets.
Sure. All right. I don't believe it. I don't think that that's true. I don't think that, I don't know. I think that there is probably some kind of large fish or something that people are maybe seeing, but the fact that you don't have any clear pictures of this thing, I think it just doesn't exist.
Okay,
I think that it's a boat or a branch or your imagination.
Okay, so you think that people are seeing there's something, whether it's a fish or a branch, but you think that whatever they're seeing is a perfectly normal thing that you would expect to see in a lake rather than a large lake monster.
Rather than like a dinosaur. Yes.
Okay. I actually agree with you on
this coming from the person who believes that the Bermuda Triangle is hiding the realm of dragons.
Dragons. Well, okay, so I want you to know I actually almost went to the Loch Ness Monster after dragons because I was going to say there is a little bit of dragonness when you see photos of Nessie or you see like drawings of Nessie.
Yeah.
A little dragon.
Yeah.
So I think we could have another book series here.
All right.
On
All right.
another series of dragons hidden in lakes throughout the world.
Sure. All right.
Somebody get writing that series. So I think something very similar. I don't necessarily believe that Nessie or the Lake Iliamna monster is an actual lake monster. I think that there's a number of giant things, giant fish it could be. I also have spent enough time on the water where I've seen things on the surface, the way water distorts things, that make things look different and bigger and just, that kind of thing.
Well, even tonight, like we pulled up a YouTube video of Lake Iliamna Monster and it just looks like ice. It just looks like ice. And it's like, no, you're just looking at ice. Like it's surrounded by glaciers. It's probably calved you're just looking at floating ice. So, I don't know, but they're like, nope, it's a monster.
I don't think Lake Iliamna is surrounded by glaciers.
It's surrounded by mountains.
Must be I think it's a monster. So yeah, I actually don't think it's a monster. I do think that it's something, maybe it's a gigantic. Here's what I will say. I think there is the possibility and the potential that the depths of lakes and the depths of oceans contain things that we have not seen or discovered.
Right.
And I think there's the possibility that there is something gigantic that lives down there that potentially, but I don't think it's like a dinosaurish monster.
Right.
I think it could be just like a gigantic sturgeon or like, you know what I mean? Like
catfish or something.
Something huge.
Right.
But not necessarily like a Nessie kind of monster.
Correct.
Do you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Not dragons though.
Not dragons.
That would make a cool book series.
Oh, sure.
Man, okay. Now can we go back to this one?
Yep.
All right, so now we're going to the one that this is actually, apart from Tupac showing up at the Super Bowl, this is my favorite conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
So it's so funny. So a lot of you will have heard for years and years that Walt Disney was frozen.
Cryoed.
Yep, cryogenically frozen. They froze, some people say just his head, some people say his whole body.
I would hope his whole body, because why just his head? That's creepy.
I don't know, Walt was a good looking guy.
Well,
maybe. You want to preserve that brain. Think of all the creativity.
Okay.
And so for a long time, and there were lots and lots of Google searches, is Walt Disney frozen? Walt Disney frozen? It was kind of this conspiracy theory that the Disney company basically had done this, knew where he was, all of that.
Right.
So the conspiracy theory is that Disney named and released the movie Frozen essentially to completely scrub the internet of any information about Walt Disney himself being frozen.
So that anytime you Google
Walt
Disney frozen or Frozen,
what comes up is the movie.
The soundtrack and the dolls and the everything.
Yeah, and it's hard to find like Walt Disney frozen. Is Walt Disney himself frozen? Because now you get on it and Elsa and Olaf and Sven every time you Google search.
Yep.
So here's what I want to say about this.
Completely plausible.
I want to say I don't know that it was their intention. It sure worked out good.
Here's my thing, and here's why I think I don't know that I believe that Walt Disney himself was frozen.
Right.
I don't know that I believe that. However, I know that it was enough of a bee in their bonnet that they probably wanted to squash it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about the names of Disney movies before Frozen,
Mm-hmm.
it was Sleeping Beauty,
Mm-hmm.
Snow White, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast,
Mm-hmm.
Mulan. The actual names of the people.
Yep.
Or like The Little Mermaid, that's actually based off of The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen. However, Frozen was not called Elsa. It was not called Anna.
Right.
It was not called Sisters.
Yep.
It was called Frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why did they veer from their naming convention that they had for decades to name this one something that doesn't actually have to do with, I mean, it has to do with the movie, but it doesn't have to do with any of the characters in the movie.
That's interesting.
Why not call it ice? Why not call it ice magic? Why not call it the Snow Queen, which is what it's actually based on?
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Right. Why call it Frozen?
Well, and that's my thing for me is that now, again, when you Google Disney Frozen, Walt Disney Frozen, it's all the movie.
Yep.
And so that's one of those things that it just feeds into the conspiracy theory perfectly. Whether they meant to do this or not, it's just like it lines up so perfect.
Yeah.
Because it did do that.
Yeah.
Right? It did in some ways scrub at least the initial internet search. You have to do some digging now to find about Walt being cryogenically frozen because you got frickin' snowmen everywhere.
Right.
When you search.
Right.
So
and reindeers.
I just love that so much. It is so genius, and I don't put it above Disney. Now, maybe it may have just been like a sweet benefit from the name.
Right.
I will say I like the name Frozen better than the name Snow Queen.
Snow Queen. But I mean, like, that's what the story that it's based off of, and that's what they did with Beauty and the Beast, and that's what they did with
Little Mermaid.
The Little Mermaid. Like, those are based off of stories, and they just kept the name. And so, like, why change this one?
Here's what
it feeds into the conspiracy.
Here's what I'll say. I believe that if that's the case, there's probably some destroyed meeting minutes from some high up Disney executive meeting where they were like, you guys, I have an idea. I know the story's called The Snow Queen, but hear me out. All these people keep talking about whether Walt Disney's frozen, do we know where he is? What are they going to do with Walt's body? What are they doing with him being frozen? What if we change?
Is Disney on ice?
Yeah. What? Right? Is Disney on ice? Exactly. And so it's like, what if we change the name of the movie to Frozen so that now when people search, they all get our movie? Like, I like to think that there was some high executive meeting where those minutes got destroyed.
Right. We can't tell anybody we're gonna do this.
You guys, we can't let them know. Call it Frozen. Push it out. Let's go. So
the cold never bothered us anyway.
What do you think, Sherry? Possible?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if like I said, I don't know that I believe that they froze like Walt Disney, but the naming convention that they stuck to for decades and then all of a sudden went, we'll just change it. Why?
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. So the next one we're moving into, we have two left. This next one is one of my favorite, not necessarily conspiracy theories, but like things to read about, things to watch. It is the Knights Templar.
Yeah, so we went through a phase several years ago.
We got super nerdy.
We dug deep. We took some deep dives into this. Maybe a little too far.
Oh, completely too far.
I think we lost ourselves a little bit. We read the Dan Brown books, and we watched all the movies, and we dug in Googles, and we
went to Paris. We were like, we've got to see some of these spots. We've got to see them.
Look for the Rose Line.
We got to look for the Rose Line. Do you remember the church we went to where they filmed the Da Vinci Code in?
Sure.
Oh gosh.
Absolutely. Do you remember when we went to? We're getting a little off. It's not off.
No,
topic.
I was going to tell. I know exactly where you're going. I was going to tell that story in here.
About the
right up the street.
Right up the street.
Okay, let's hold on. I'm so glad we both went there. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, the Knights Templar, just quick overview. Basically, we're
not going to go into all of our depths of knowledge.
No, and also the history is very deep on them. Sure. And I might mess some of this up, but kind of give you a loose description. The Knights Templar essentially were this group of, some like warrior monks in some ways that helped provide safe passage to pilgrims going to the Holy Land during the Crusades.
Right. Basically bodyguards.
Yeah, these like monk bodyguards. And so they started as these monk bodyguards, and then they get into banking, which is weird. Basically, what they were doing is they created this system of money where people who they were providing safe passage for could deposit money in their homeland and withdraw that same amount of money when they got to the Holy Land.
So they weren't just carrying this amount of money.
Which is not safe to do. Basically, the knights guaranteed that amount of funds. It's fascinating.
Right.
They make a ton of money off of this. And so at the end of the Crusades, which, by the way, can we just talk, as Christians, sure, I just want to say...
Blemish.
Yeah,
blemish.
Really sorry about that.
Yeah.
Like, I know we didn't play a role in that, but that is a huge blemish on our faith. And what the hell were you thinking?
Correct.
Okay, now moving on. So at the end of the Crusades, the Knights Templar basically move to Paris, kind of becomes their sort of home base where they... Headquarters where they focus on the banking aspect. And it's so weird. Down the road, they kind of get shut down, disbanded. And then, like, the conspiracy theories sort of start with, well, where did they go? What do they do now? Are they, protecting, as like Dan Brown said, were they the protectors of, like, the chalice of Christ and a piece of the cross and, the protectors of these holy relics.
Crown of thorns and the... Right.
Yeah, where they, they went from these, like, warrior monks to these money banking monks to, like, the protectors of the most iconic religious artifacts in Christianity.
Right.
And so there's all of these conspiracy theories surrounding, like, well, what happened to them? Who are they? Are they protecting these relics? Are they still around?
Yeah, are they just underground?
And so that's the kind of conspiracy theory. And here's the problem with the Knights Templar conspiracy theory is that they are real.
Right. It was a real, true organization.
100%. Like,
right.
It's a historically accurate group of people. But it's like, well, where are they now? What's happening now?
Right.
And so Sherry and I, the story we were laughing at earlier, we went to it was like a
rummage sale, sort of.
Perfect. That was
in
the word
a
I was
Catholic
looking for.
church.
Yep, right up the street from our house.
Right up the street from us.
And we're walking in to the Catholic church, and we love this church. This church has, like, they have a great thrift store. They're just like a great local church. And we walk in, and we're walking in, like, a side door. And we're going downstairs to, like, their kind of like a little community room downstairs, a little fellowship hall. And there is this sword that is mounted up on the wall.
Yep.
And it had, like, a little plaque with it.
Now, to see a sword in a church is unusual.
And so we stopped because of that.
We were like, oh, what's that? Like a sword in a Catholic church.
And
seems strange.
We might need to go back because I want to know exactly what it said. But basically, it was like, this is a Knights Templar sword presented to this church on this date. And I don't remember all of the other information, but I just remember seeing, like, the Knights Templar sword. And you and I...
You, like, lost your shit. Like, we were in the church.
100%.
And you were like...
What? Like, I was like... And here's the thing. It's like, what, a half mile from our house?
Right. Yeah,
and so then I'm just like, are they watching us? Like, are they here? Like, what's going on?
Is there a Knights Templar here?
Here? That's there. Yeah, like, where are they at? Like, I'm looking around the room. Is this the Rose Line? Like, is the
in Anchorage, Alaska?
Yeah, is the Crown of Thorns here? And so it's the favorite thing that I love about conspiracy theories is that when there is just enough truth to let your mind have fun.
Yep.
And to me, that's what the Knights Templar is. There's enough truth to their history, even to the mystery surrounding who they are and what they do and what their purpose was.
Right.
That there's a great foundation to build some very interesting stories.
Imaginative stories.
And I love that.
Yes. Now, we do know for a fact that the actual Crown of Thorns is in Notre Dame in Paris. But...
It's true. We do know that.
Because it was donated to the church by the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well... Here's what I'll say. What they say.
What? It's not the real one?
What they say is
sure?
What they say is the real one. In fact, I do remember that was one of the things when Notre Dame started to burn.
Right. That was one of our thoughts. Like, are they going to lose these? I mean, there's a lot of those kinds of artifacts in Notre Dame.
Completely. That's where a lot of that stuff was housed.
Yeah.
And so obviously they moved that stuff from there
as quickly as they could.
Completely. So, so the Knights Templar, to me, historical organization. And do I know what they're doing today? No, but I know I want to go back to our local church and see the sword and start to build That's what I should do. I should write a book series called like The Northern Knights.
Ooh.
And talk about like the Knights Templar moved to like colder, more abandoned regions to hide things where there weren't people. And that's why
remote locations.
More remote locations, because they couldn't keep them in like the developing cities like Paris, or even as America developed, like, you know, so they moved them to...
Right.
They sent them to Alaska with... Oh, man. I need a pen and paper. Sherry, let me go.
You got one.
The Northern Knights. Book series coming soon from Adam Legg. Visit northernknights.com. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Last one we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And this is such a big one that I'm surprised it didn't make our first round of podcasts.
I am too, actually. Yep.
So we're going to talk about the pyramids.
In Egypt.
Now, it's not a conspiracy whether there are pyramids in Egypt.
There are pyramids.
Correct. Can confirm.
Right. Well, we haven't actually been there ourselves, but we know people who have been there who can confirm.
Well, and I don't think they're liars.
I don't think so.
And so, but around the pyramids, the conspiracy theory we want to talk about has to do with their building, their constructions.
Correct.
Did aliens assist in the building of those amazing buildings? Sherry, how were they built? How were those pyramids built?
Heck if I know.
Before Lowe's and Home Depot.
Before Lowe's and Home Depot, and cranes and you know, these ginormous drones that can now just drop things. I don't know. And I understand that it's just I haven't dug into it a lot. It's an engineering marvel, and I think we talked about aliens in the last one.
We sure did.
Do I believe that there is other life out there? Yes, absolutely. I for sure do. Now, do I believe that aliens came to Earth and helped build these weird things and then left? No. Maybe they didn't leave. Maybe they didn't peace out. Maybe they're still just here, hanging out. Sure.
Okay, Men in Black.
Sure. But I don't know. To me, it does not make sense, because they did not have the tools and the technology that we have today in order to build that. Now, we have read that they did these ginormous ramps.
Yep.
And sure, maybe. However, where did those go? Why is there no evidence of these ginormous ramps that they used to help build these things? Like, why is there and maybe there is, and I just haven't dug deep enough. But I have not heard of this. Like, how have we not heard? Oh, well, this is how they built them. Like, they built these huge ramps and then just pushed these giant stone things up there. Like, to me, it just doesn't make sense that, like, men could not have just carried these, built them.
I think that's the thing about the pyramids, is that you look at them and you look at how they were constructed and what they were constructed with. And then you think about...
It's not like pebbles on pebbles. Like, it's these massive stones that men could not just lift. Like, you can't just do that, even if there's lots of men. Yeah,
keeping in mind, like, obviously that was the one thing that the Egyptians had was...
manpower.
Was ample slave labor, right?
Correct.
And so that's kind of what people would say how the pyramids were built. We're using these gigantic ramps and... Slaves. Yeah, that's the thought on how these were built, other than aliens, obviously.
Right.
I'm with you. I don't necessarily buy the alien thing, partly because if they were aliens, like, that's what you built? I mean, I don't want to be... I mean, it's dope and all that, but, like, you didn't build a glass tower. Like, you had a spaceship that could get you to Earth.
Right.
And that's
you
what
had the
built.
technology to get here, and you're like, let's build a stone triangle that's not a triangle, that's a square, but it's a triangle, but it's a square.
And so...
Why?
That's my thing. And so I'm just like... I just feel like if it was aliens, it would have been something much cooler.
Right.
It would have been something that looks like the Luxor in Vegas, that pyramid casino that has like all glass, with like the light out of top,
right.
Something like that. So that's kind of where I'm at with the pyramids. I will say the pyramids are one of the things that I would say they're probably a top 5 thing in the world that I want to see for myself.
I agree. I would really like to see that.
I just have no concept of the size of them.
Right.
You know, and I have no concept of all of that. And that's what I would like to see in person, to be able to look at it and say, like, oh, this is actually smaller than I thought. I could see how men could do this. Or like, holy cow, I can't believe even more how men could have done this.
Right. Yeah.
So there you go. Pyramids for us. Neither of us believe aliens came down.
No, but I also don't understand how men with just tools could have built this.
I can't assemble something that we buy from Bed Bath & Beyond without a whole list of modern tools. Yet they built
Correct.
a pyramid?
Right.
Can you imagine? I would have been the worst person on that job.
No, we literally built like a bench the other night.
Yeah.
And I built a bench the other night.
I appreciate you saying we, but let's be very clear.
I built it, and you tightened the screws because you're stronger than me.
I do bring some muscle.
Sure.
But that's about it.
And a lot of cuteness.
Oh.
Yeah. But no, like he just like looked at the instructions and he was like, nope.
Here you go, Sherry.
I'm out.
Yep, I'm out.
I'll hand you things as you ask for them,
and that's my role.
I'm out.
And that's completely my role. I would have not been very much help on the pyramids. I will say that. So friends, there we go. From Tupac showing up at the Super Bowl to Walt Disney scrubbing the internet with the release of the movie Frozen, Skinwalker Ranch, in my opinion, the creepiest thing we talked about today.
It's super creepy.
It is super creepy. And so here's what I want to know from you guys. Super Bowl, Tupac, yes or no? That's the question. I need to know. Super Bowl's coming up.
Yep. So here's what you need to do.
Yep.
You need to go over to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Type in LeggLife Podcast.
Oh.
Give us a little sub over there.
I like that.
Give this podcast a little like.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we will put in the description of this podcast over on YouTube a link to the other conspiracy theories that we did.
Yeah, if you
last
haven't,
year.
If you haven't listened to that one, that's the one that we did. We talked about aliens, Bigfoot, the moon landing, Illuminati, like flat Earth. We talked about Area 51. We even touched a little bit into COVID-19. And I do want you to know, I considered on this podcast saying, we're 10 months later. Have our thoughts changed on COVID's but I thought, you know what? Let's avoid that right now.
I still feel like it's a little bit of a trigger topic. And we maybe need to not discuss it because we would probably make a lot of people angry.
It's true.
So, because there's people on both sides of this and I think we need to not discuss it. However, we will leave a link to that
Good job,
podcast.
Sherry. You should be a politician.
I know, over on YouTube. Go check that out. Give us a sub. That is really the best place, kind of the only place to discuss things and leave your comments on our podcast because none of the other podcast platforms really allow that. So YouTube does. So go do that.
Go check it out. And that's the question.
Let us know if you think Tupac himself is going to show up at the Super Bowl.
Do you even know what Tupac looks like? If you walked on stage, would you even know it was him?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Okay, we just need to end this podcast. I'm so ashamed right now. Friends, we love you guys so much. Thanks for listening. Episode number 53 in the books. We will be back next Saturday. And actually, Sherry, next Saturday's episode is one we're really
excited for.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little tease on this.
Oh, no.
Should I not?
Well, maybe just don't give a lot away.
I'm not going to give a lot away.
Okay.
So next Saturday, the Winter Olympics will have started. It will have kicked off. We love the Olympics.
Yep.
Right? You are a huge figure skating fan.
Yes, it's literally the only sport that I care about.
But you will sit
Winter,
down...
summer, just ice skating.
Just figure skating.
Yep.
You love it. I love pretty much everything. Miracle on Ice to this day will make me cry even thinking about it. Like, I just love so much about the Winter Olympics. But as we were talking about this, we said, you know what? There are some things... the Winter Olympics has some cool sports, but a lot of the sports that they have are not realistic to life in a winter environment.
Correct.
And so we've come up with our own list of things that we think, as people who live in a winter environment, we think these are the true test, the true winter sports that should be included in the Winter Olympics.
Yep.
And so it's going to be a funny
episode. None of this pansy skiing.
No.
Listen.
No, come on.
We've got the real list.
We've got the real list of, you want to prove to me you're an elite winter athlete? Do these things that we talk about. Next Saturday.
Yep.
I'm so excited, friends. We love you guys so very much. We're so thankful that you support us here on the podcast. So thankful you support us over on YouTube. Thank you again to all of our Patreons who make everything that we do possible. We love you guys so very much, and we will see you next Saturday as we talk about the real Winter Olympics.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.